Hi guys, and welcome back from Carly at the Herbathicary. Really good to see you guys again. If you're new to the channel or like the videos, please show your support by hitting like and subscribe down below. So today we are back in the Herbathicary garden. The kids and I went swimming this morning and it's about 28 degrees, so we're going to be hiding in the house and in the garden today. Now, 3 weeks ago, I did the video where we were making the nettle tea fertilizer, and I thought I'd give the fermented one a go. It sat for a week, and then I strained it off. And as you can see, I actually got surprisingly more than I expected. According to my research, this is most likely because of the moisture content of the nettles, as I picked them literally after it had rained all night and it was still drizzling when I went out. So I just strained these through the cloth that I'd actually put on top to keep bugs and stuff out. So just straight through my sieve. Now again, the research that I came across said no need to squeeze it, just let it drip. Ooh, that weight is quite mucky. But as I'm extremely impatient, after about an hour or so, especially as I wanted to use it already, I just gave the cloth a squeeze. And like the big wuss I am, I ran for the gloves as I didn't want to get mucky. So squeezed that through and got as much of that good fermented plant juice out as I could. And then all this leftover plant matter, I'm just going to chuck on the compost heap, as I don't want to throw it in the bin, and I'm sure it'll be very happy there. I did decide to measure how much I had, as if you watch the other video, we had 50 grams of the nettles and 35 grams of sugar approximately. So I measured this out just so I can remember for future reference when making it. And it looks like we got about 300 mils. So I'm going to pop it in a smaller container, as there's no need to use the big one, especially as I don't have a lid for it. Now, initially I did put the lid on tight, which I will not do in future. I did have to take it off because when I opened it, it was a big pop and some smoke. So clearly fermenting, not a good idea. So I was using this 1 part to 500 parts. So that's just over a mil for my 6-litre bucket. And we're going to give it a good stir. I probably should have put the juice in before I put the water in. And as it's been working so well on the tomatoes, which I will show you shortly, I thought I'd give all these other beds a quick dose because they haven't been fertilized in 2 weeks. Straight off the bat and within the first week, I noticed that the suckers had gone from being tiny to quite large like this one. So rather than throw them away, I've been popping them in water and they've been rooting so well. As you can see, this one's well rooted and I'll plant that up. But here we have 2 suckers that I did a couple of weeks ago. The one on the right, I've been using the fermented juice on, and the one on the left, I've been using just the normal nettle tea. And as you can see, there's at least a 3-inch difference in their height. They are a bit leggy, so I will pot them on, but I'm taking these to my brother's garden, so I'm not going to, well, I'll plant them in and plant them deeper when I get to his. But there is a huge difference in the two just from these suckers, so they were my control group, I guess. But these are the ones that I was trialing it on in the front garden that I'd just been using the nettle tea on. Now the one on the far right, that one has stuck with the nettle tea, but the one on the left next to it has been using the fermented plant juice. And where they were both the same height in the video 3 weeks ago, as you can see, the one on the fermented juice, or fermented juice, has actually grown a clear foot taller and has hundreds of flowers on, and we even have some baby tomatoes starting. Now my potatoes are looking quite poorly over there. I'm not sure what I did wrong with those, because compared to the ones in the back garden that look absolutely amazing, so I might try the fermented juice on that. This one on the far left has been on fish blood and bone, and the peas have been on just the nettle tea, and as you can see, they're absolutely massive and definitely getting lots of fruits off there. I can happily say that we haven't bought salad leaves, onions, herbs, carrots in weeks. And my corn is looking good. I did actually lose one, although it does look like it's trying to hold on. I know that's not the best way to plant corn, but as I've said before, we are running out of space. My grapes looking great, but down here in with those peas, I've planted cucumbers and stuff in there, and they keep getting eaten. So I've got my heirloom cucumber and a something called a secret squash. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it was an heirloom seed. So I've left them in the pots, but I've cut out the bottom, and hopefully they'll survive. Quick look at my cherries. I didn't get much fruit this year, but I will keep at it. And then there's this dead patch in my garden where no matter whether I sow direct or put transplants in, they never seem to survive. But we've got some tiny little green shoots coming up. I've planted so many seeds in there, I don't even know what they are till they get bigger. And my irises have flowered, and there's new flowers coming, but I think there is a watering problem with there. And as you can see, my husband is using the garden as a dumping site again. He has promised me he'll be doing the tip run tomorrow. Now, we use an inordinate amount of herbs in our cooking, and garlic. However, I've never managed to grow garlic successfully. So on our way back from swimming, we popped into Asda. Now, I've never had any luck growing these living bunches of herbs on. Like what I'd normally do is just pop the whole lot in a new pot or pop it in the ground, and they always die. Now, according to a video that I watched, it's because they keep them in perfect conditions and they overseed the pots. So we are going to try split these up and get some free plants. Now these ones seem to have broken off, so I have seen that you can pop them in water, root them, and then plant them on once they're well rooted. So we'll give that a go too. But these were all around 69, around 69p, to buy a full pot in a local Wilco's or in a garden centre. They're closer to like £3. So I will pop the basil. So I've got a normal basil or an Italian basil, and I've got a Thai basil. And we are going to separate these out and see if we can get some free plants. I've also seen that taking these softwood cuttings from rosemary can be quite effective, so I'm going to give that a go too today. So as always, I always make sure that my pots are ready. This one is for the cuttings, so it's some well-draining soil that's been pre-moistened. And to get the larger pots ready, I just pop some really cheap kitchen towel. Use the cheaper one because it breaks down quicker and it just stops the soil all falling out of the holes, because there's quite big holes in these pots. And on with the rosemary. I'm going to give this a good trim around the edges, and I want at least 4 or 5 nodes, so the leaf nodes, but I want to leave some left on so that doesn't die back. So I'm probably going to go above the second set at the base, and that will give me a nice long cutting to work with. I am going to leave the ones around in the center rather, so I'm only working around the edges just in case this experiment fails miserably. So that looks quite good and it's quite compact. Now I don't find that I can pull rosemary apart and make new plants, so that's why I'm taking the cuttings. I'm going to leave the top 4 or 6 leaves and just strip all the others down. I'll keep them as they're going in our dinner later. And then I'm just going to wedge them into this pre-moistened soil and then keep them moist. Now, I find that if I do the plastic bag over the top method, I always forget about them. So instead, I'm going to put them on the window ledge in my kitchen. That isn't in direct light because the conservatory is on the other side of the kitchen, but they will be right under my nose every time I do the dishes. So I'll just give them a misting and keep the tops and the bottom moist. So on with the basil. I'm just going to pull out all those ones that have already come. They have no roots on them. So we are going to pop them in some water and pray that they root. And with the rest of the plant, I did pull out any of the little weak ones as I thought that they were just taking up more of the soil and that they wouldn't work so well, and just literally grab at the base and pull them apart and see how many little groups of plants that I can get to repot into my Mediterranean herb planters that I will be keeping on I'll keep one out on the decking outside the conservatory, and I'll keep one inside, and I'll make them identical except for the rosemary as I only have one. But this is a nice healthy little plant. I got 3 out of the Italian basil and 3, I'll just pop them aside and keep them separate, and I got 3 out of the Thai basil. So I'm going to pot up the 2 planters, one for indoors, one for outdoors, one for inside the conservatory, one for outside the conservatory, and then that third little clump, I'm going to try pop them directly in that patch of garden where nothing grows, and see if I can keep them alive in there. And then we will check back in a month and see if I have some beautiful big bushy basil and rosemary or Mediterranean planters to show you, or if I've yet again failed miserably. Now immediately I noticed that the Thai basil was looking very, very limp. I wonder if this is because it's so hot and I should have kept them in water or watered them first, or if it's just because it's so hot today. So I'm not holding out hopes for those, but we shall see. And this one is quite tiny, but there's at least 2 there, so let's see. So we'll scoop up all the rest of that soil. And then I'm using the compost mix that I used in the last video that came from my neighbour's allotment. And it's got well-rotted manure and everything else in it. So fingers crossed, this is the magic soil that they need. So, oh, hello, my little man's come to see me. And I'm just going to, I've pre-moistened the soil, sorry. And we're just going to stick these in. So I've got 1 rosemary and 1 of each of the basils in this. Still pulling out all of those ones that are tiny and don't look like they'll live. Hopefully the Thai basil won't stay limp for long, but the Italian basil is actually looking quite good. So what I'm going to do is actually pull out the bigger leaves at each of the nodes where there's a set of smaller leaves coming through, as this should encourage it to bush out. And ooh, a little monkey on my back. Little man loves to come garden with me. So we'll have a little play, and then I am going to give these another water in. Even though the soil was pre-moistened, you do want to settle the soil around the roots so that there's no air pockets. Or at least I will get to that as soon as the monkey on my back puts mommy down, which could be a while, so please bear with us. And as soon as he gets bored, out with the watering can and give them a good water in. I'm just going to go and plant the other one, and then I will take the spare two, and I shall pop them in the ground, and we will follow the experiment around until obviously the weather kills them off. But in the back garden, in the safe section, as they're thorny, well, my brother's back garden, I grow these golden fourberries. Now these are great as they give you two crops, one in the spring or early summer and one again in the fall or autumn. These came as bare sticks from a friend of mine, but as you can see, they're making some suckers. So some tiny plants are just coming out of random parts in the garden, and I've already dug one up. Now this is a rather unkept section. But after I rinsed the clump off to get rid of all the grass and everything, I found this one actually had a really good root system on it already, some really well established roots and some tiny little new roots. So I've got a tiny bit of compost left, and we are just going to bury those roots up to the point where it was coming out of the ground. And we will see if we can make another plant for somewhere else in the garden. Now I do grow lots of thornless berries at home, and again I'm going to bottom water this just to help those roots settle in. We do grow berries at home, but we grow thornless varieties, and I even found a rather healthy looking dandelion root hiding in the clump of ground. So I am going to chop that up, roast it, and turn it into a caffeine-free coffee substitute. Thank you guys for coming back to the Herbathicary Garden. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you've tried the fermented plant juice and you've tried it with other plants, please let us know how they worked. I know you can do it with dandelions. Give us a comment down below. We always love to read your comments. Thank you to those of you who have already liked and subscribed so far. We really appreciate it. I've answered, I think, pretty much every comment so far. In answer to the few that we have been getting, we finally got around to getting a Patreon account. I still haven't worked out how to use it though, but there is one if anyone would like to show their support. Again, thank you guys for coming back to the Herbathicary. It was great to see you again. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.